Have you ever been looked down on? Just because you didn't have money? What would you do if the same person who mocked you every single day suddenly stood at your door, asking for forgiveness? This isn't a fairy tale. This is the story of a girl who chose kindness when she had every reason to choose revenge. Morning in Easton, Ridge, Texas, never felt dramatic. It arrived quietly, slow light slipping over rooftops, warm air already rising before 8 a.m., and on a quiet street lined with oak trees, there stood two houses, side by side, close enough to hear each other's footsteps, but far enough to feel like two different planets. On the left, the Whitmore estate, white stone walls, tall iron gates, cameras at every corner, the kind of house people slowed down for, not because they were invited, but because they wanted to look. The driveway curved like a private road. A black Mercedes sat polished, reflecting the sky. Even the grass looked expensive, trimmed to perfection, like someone paid it to grow evenly. Everything about that house said one thing: power. On the other side of a simple brick wall stood the Carter home. Small, one floor, faded beige paint, a front porch with two old chairs that had seen better years. No gate, no security, no cameras, just a narrow path leading to the door. But the place was clean, carefully kept, like someone respected what little they had. The windows were open, letting in air, letting out the smell of fried dough and coffee. The kind of smell that didn't try to impress but told you a story of effort, of waking up early, of doing what you can with what you have. Inside that small kitchen stood Grace Carter, 48. Dark skin, worn but strong. Her hands moved with quiet rhythm. Pour, turn, lift, repeat. Oil crackled in the pan. She didn't rush, but she didn't stop either. 12 hours of work ahead, and her day had already started. She wiped sweat from her forehead with the back of her arm. Not complaining, just continuing, because stopping wasn't an option she could afford. Behind her, a soft step. Naomi Carter walked in. 24, tall, slender. Her dark brown skin caught the morning light gently. Her natural curls pulled back loosely. Not styled to impress, just tied so she could work. Her eyes were calm, deep. The kind that didn't react quickly. The kind that watched first, then understood, then decided. She didn't speak right away. She reached for a clean towel, wiped the counter, adjusted the tray, moved like she already knew what was needed. "You're up early again," Grace said, not turning. Naomi gave a small smile. "If I'm not, who helps you?" Her voice was soft, but steady. No drama, just truth. Grace glanced at her. There was pride there, but also something else. Worry, because a mother knows, even when a daughter doesn't say it. Naomi helped pack the food into small containers. Careful, neat, like each one mattered because it did. This was how they survived, not comfortably, but honestly. And just beyond that brick wall, another morning was unfolding very differently. Upstairs in the Whitmore estate, Ashley Whitmore stretched under silk sheets. 24, the same age as Naomi, but nothing about their lives matched. Ashley's skin was pale and flawless, maintained, protected. Her blonde hair fell perfectly even after sleep, like effort had been applied even to rest. She reached for her phone before she even sat up. Scrolling, notifications, likes, comments. Her world started there, not in a kitchen, not in heat, but in validation. A soft knock at her door. "Miss Ashley, breakfast is ready." No response. Another knock, louder. "Miss Ashley?" Ashley sighed. "I heard you." Her tone carried irritation, not because of what was said, but because she had to hear it at all. Downstairs, her father, Daniel Whitmore, adjusted his cufflinks. A man who moved like decisions followed him. Wealth didn't just sit on him, it shaped him. His voice carried authority even when calm. "Ashley," he called, "you have a meeting in an hour." Ashley rolled her eyes slightly, I know. But she didn't move faster, because in her world, time adjusted to her, not the other way around. Back in the Carter home, Naomi picked up a tray. I'll head to the market later, she said. Grace nodded. Don't stay too long. Naomi paused for a second, just a second. Her eyes drifted toward the wall outside. That wall, not high, not strong, but heavy, because it held something invisible. A line, not just between houses, but between lives, between how people are seen and how they are treated. She didn't say anything about it. She never did. But she felt it every day. She stepped outside. The morning sun was stronger now, and from the other side of the wall came the sound of a car door closing. Naomi didn't need to look. She already knew. Ashley Whitmore had stepped out. And without even turning, Naomi could feel it. That presence, that energy, that quiet tension that always followed. Because this wasn't just about neighbors. It was about something closer, something sharper. Because Naomi's mother worked inside that big house, cleaning, serving, remaining unseen. And that meant one thing. These two worlds didn't just exist side by side. They touched every single day. And when worlds like that touch, something always happens. And this was only the beginning. It didn't start with shouting, it never does. It started small, quiet, almost casual, the kind of words people throw out and pretend don't matter. Naomi first heard it one late morning. She was walking past the Whitmore driveway, tray in hand, simple clothes, hair tied back, focused. Ashley stood near her car, sunglasses on, phone in hand, laughing at something on her screen. Then she looked up, saw Naomi, paused just for a second, then smiled, not kindly. "You smell like kitchen oil," she said. Light, almost playful, like a joke. But it wasn't. Naomi stopped walking, just for a breath, not turning fully, not reacting, just absorbing. The air shifted. Ashley's friends were nearby. Two girls, watching, waiting. "I mean it," Ashley added, louder this time. "You ever think of, I don't know, using perfume?" A soft laugh followed. Not loud, but sharp enough. Naomi's fingers tightened slightly around the tray, not shaking, just firm. She could feel it. That familiar heat rising. Not anger alone, something deeper, something older. The kind of feeling that doesn't come from one insult, but from many, repeated, layered. But she didn't speak, not yet. She kept walking, slow, steady, like the words hadn't landed. But they had. They always did. Later that afternoon, it happened again, this time, closer. Naomi was dropping off a container at the back entrance of the Whitmore house, the staff door, the one that didn't face the street. Grace was inside, working as always. Naomi knocked lightly. The door opened, but not by her mother. Ashley stood there, leaning against the frame, blocking the way, looking Naomi up and down, slowly, deliberately. "You know," Ashley said, tilting her head, "it's kind of impressive." Naomi stayed quiet, waiting. "How someone can come from that," she gestured vaguely toward Naomi's house, "and still walk around like they belong anywhere else." The words were softer this time, but colder. Naomi met her eyes for a brief second, not challenging, not submissive, just present. Ashley noticed, and something in her expression tightened. "Don't look at me like that," she snapped. "Like what?" Naomi asked. It was the first time she responded. Her voice calm, even, no edge, just a question. Ashley blinked, caught off guard just for a second. Then she laughed. "Like your equal." Silence, thick, uncomfortable. Naomi felt her chest rise, then settle. Inside, her thoughts moved quickly. Should I say something? Should I answer? Tell her she's wrong? Tell her she doesn't get to decide that? But then another thought came. Faster, sharper. What if she tells her father? What if Mom loses this job? That one thought outweighed everything else. Naomi lowered her eyes slightly, not in defeat, in decision. "I'm here to see my mother," she said. Simple, clear. Ashley stepped aside, but not before adding one more line. Quiet, close, stay where you belong. Naomi walked past her, shoulders straight, back steady, but her hand tightened again. That evening, Naomi sat on the edge of her bed. The room was quiet, fan spinning slowly above. Her hands rested on her knees. Still. But her mind wasn't. It replayed everything, the tone, the words, the look, over and over. She imagined answering differently, speaking up, standing her ground. She imagined saying, "You don't get to define me." But then reality returned, always the same place. Her mother. Tired. Working. Depending on that house. Depending on that paycheck. Naomi exhaled slowly, closed her eyes for a second, then opened them again. Clear. Grounded. This isn't about pride, she told herself. This is about survival. The next morning, the pattern continued. Ashley didn't need a reason. Naomi was walking by again, early, carrying supplies. Ashley leaned out from the passenger seat of her car, window down, smile ready. "Hey," she called. Naomi kept walking. "Maid's blood," Ashley added, louder now. The words hit differently, not surface level, deeper, because this one wasn't about smell or appearance. It was about identity, about origin, about saying, "You are what your mother is," and nothing more. Naomi stopped just for a second. Her back still turned. The street felt quieter, like even the air was waiting. Her jaw tightened slightly. Her fingers pressed into her palm. This time, it hurt more. Because it wasn't just about her. It was about Grace, her mother, the woman who woke before sunrise, who worked until her feet ached, who never complained, who never disrespected anyone. And now, her name was being used as an insult. Naomi's chest rose, fell slowly. She wanted to turn around, she wanted to say something, anything. But the same thought returned, stronger now. If I speak, she pays the price. Naomi kept walking, no reply, no reaction. Ashley laughed again. But there was something different in it this time, a hint of frustration, because silence didn't give her what she wanted. And that made it worse. Days passed. The comments didn't stop. They changed form, tone, but never intention. Sometimes it was a look, sometimes a whisper, sometimes a word dropped just loud enough to be heard. Always the same message, "You don't belong here." And every time, Naomi chose the same response, nothing. Not because she had nothing to say, but because she had something to protect. That night, as she washed her hands in the small sink, Naomi looked at her reflection. Not long, just enough. Her eyes were still calm, but there was something new behind them. Not anger, not weakness, something quieter, stronger, control. She dried her hands slowly, took a breath, and made a decision she wouldn't say out loud. Not every fight needs a voice. Some fights need patience, and sometimes the strongest answer is the one you never say. And as the tension between silence and cruelty continued to grow, neither of them knew that something much bigger was already on its way. At first, it felt like small cuts. Then it became something else, something heavier, something that stayed. Ashley didn't stop. She didn't slow down, in fact. She got more creative. One afternoon, Naomi was setting up her small stand near the corner market. Nothing fancy. Just a folding table, a few trays, neatly arranged, simple food, honest work. The sun was high. People walked by. Some nodded, some stopped. Some smiled. Naomi greeted everyone the same way, calm, respectful, no difference. That was who she was. Then a black SUV slowed near the curb, not stopping, just slowing. The window rolled down. Ashley, phone already in her hand, camera facing out, recording. "Guys, look," she said into the phone, her voice light, amused. "This is what hard work looks like around here." She turned the camera toward Naomi, zoomed in. "Same girl I told you about, the one that smells like oil." Laughter came from inside the car, not just Ashley, others too. Naomi heard it, of course she did. The street wasn't that loud, but she didn't look up, not immediately. She finished arranging the last tray, adjusted it slightly, then wiped her hands slowly, like the moment didn't belong to anyone else, like she still owned it. Ashley leaned further out the window. "Say hi," she called. Naomi lifted her eyes, just briefly, looked straight at the camera, not angry, not ashamed, just Still, and that was the problem. Because Ashley wanted a reaction, something messy, something emotional, something she could post. But Naomi gave her nothing, no words, no expression, just presence. Ashley clicked her tongue. Boring, she muttered, lowering the phone slightly. But she didn't stop recording. You know what's funny? She added. People like her think they're going somewhere. She laughed softly. You're not. Naomi lowered her gaze again, continued working. A customer stepped forward. Naomi served her like nothing had happened. Thank you, she said, gentle, polite. The customer glanced at the car, then back at Naomi, said nothing, paid, left. Ashley watched for a second. Something shifted in her face. Not guilt, no. Something closer to irritation. Because the scene wasn't going the way she wanted. No breakdown, no tears, no drama, just silence. And silence doesn't go viral. She rolled her eyes, pulled the window up, the SUV moved on. But the video didn't stop there. By evening, it was online, shared, commented, liked, mocked. Naomi saw it, not by searching. Someone showed her. A neighbor's son. Hey, you should see this, he said quietly, holding out his phone. Naomi hesitated, then took it. Watched her own face on a screen, framed by someone else's words, someone else's laughter. She watched until the end, then handed the phone back. It's okay, she said, and walked away. But it wasn't okay, not really. That night she sat in the same place, edge of the bed, same fan above, same quiet room. But something felt heavier, like the air had changed. She stood up slowly, walked to the sink, turned the water on, washed her hands, again and again, longer than needed, like she was trying to remove something invisible, something that had nothing to do with oil or work or the day. She dried her hands, looked at them for a moment, then turned off the light, sat back down. No tears? Not because it didn't hurt, but because she didn't allow it that space. Her thoughts moved quietly, slower this time, more deliberate. Why does it matter so much? Why does she keep doing this? What am I supposed to do with it? And then the same answer returned, the same one she had chosen before. You endure, not forever, but for now. The next day, it happened again. Different place, same pattern. Naomi was walking back home. Empty tray this time. Tired, but steady. Ashley stood near the gate, waiting, like she had something prepared. Hey, she called. Naomi stopped, not turning fully, just enough. I saw your little video, Ashley said, smiling. You didn't even cry. That was disappointing. Naomi said nothing. Ashley stepped closer, heels clicking softly on the pavement. Let me make it clearer for you, she said. Her voice dropped, lower, sharper. You will never leave this street. The words landed heavy, direct, no disguise, no humor, just truth, as Ashley saw it. Naomi felt it, that one line. It went deeper than the others, because it wasn't about today. It was about the future, about being stuck, defined, limited, forever. Naomi's grip tightened around the tray, her knuckles pressing into the plastic edge. Her breath slowed just a little. Should I say something now? Should I finally answer? Her mind pushed the thought forward, stronger this time. But then, another voice inside her, quieter but clearer. Not here. Not like this, not for her. Naomi lifted her head slightly, met Ashley's eyes. Not long, just enough. Good evening, she said, calm, polite, then walked past her. Ashley turned, watching her go, for a second. There was no smile, just a tightness in her jaw, because again, no reaction, no collapse, just dignity, and somehow that felt like resistance. Naomi reached her house, opened the door, stepped inside, closed it gently behind her. The noise of the street faded. Silence returned. She set the tray down, washed her hands, same motion, same rhythm, then sat. Not on the bed this time, on the small chair near the window. Her eyes stayed open, but unfocused. The words echoed, "You will never leave this street." She let them sit there, didn't push them away, didn't argue with them, just observed them. Then slowly something something shifted. Not anger, not sadness, something quieter. Resolve. Not loud, not dramatic, just a small, steady decision forming beneath everything else. They can say what they want, but they don't get to decide my ending. She leaned back slightly, exhaled, and for the first time in days, her shoulders relaxed, just a little, because something inside her had settled. Not the situation, not the pain, but her response to it. And sometimes, that's where change begins. And while Naomi was learning how to carry silence with strength, something unexpected was already beginning to move beyond that street. Something that would soon change everything. The shift didn't come with noise. It came quietly. Like most things that matter. A small headline, a passing mention, something easy to ignore, if you weren't paying attention. Naomi first heard it from an old radio sitting on the kitchen counter. It was early, still dim outside, the kind of morning where the world hadn't fully decided to wake up yet. Grace was already working. Oil heating. Same rhythm. Same routine. Naomi stood by the sink, rinsing a bowl, not thinking about anything in particular, just moving through the moment. Then the radio voice changed tone, slightly more formal, slightly more focused. In local news, the announcer said, Hayes Foundation has announced a new initiative. Naomi didn't look up. Not yet. They are searching for a community education ambassador, the voice continued. Grace paused for a second, just a second, then went back to stirring. Naomi kept rinsing, but her movements slowed. The position is open to applicants from all backgrounds, the announcer said. No requirement for wealth, status, or formal titles. Now Naomi looked up, not fully turning, just enough to listen. What matters, the voice added, is real impact, real work, real connection to the community. Silence followed, not from the radio, but from the room. Grace glanced at Naomi. You hear that? She asked casually. Naomi shrugged slightly. Sounds important. Her tone was neutral, almost distant. She dried her hands, set the bowl aside. The radio continued. Details, dates, application process. Naomi didn't listen anymore. Not really, because something inside her had already made a quiet decision. This isn't for me. Not because she didn't care, but because she had learned. Not everything that sounds like opportunity is meant for you. Not in her world, not with her life. In her world. Not. Across the wall, the same news traveled differently. In the Whitmore estate, the announcement wasn't background noise, it was strategy. Ashley sat at the long dining table, tablet in hand, coffee untouched. This is perfect, she said, scrolling. Daniel Whitmore looked up from his paper. What is? The Hayes Foundation thing, Ashley replied. Community ambassador. She smirked slightly. It's basically a public image position. Daniel leaned back, thinking, not reacting immediately. It says they want real impact, he said. Ashley laughed softly. That's what they say. But what they need is someone who looks good doing it. She tapped the screen. I can build something in a week. Charity visits, photos, a few interviews. It's easy. Daniel studied her for a moment, then nodded slightly. If you're going to do it, he said, do it properly. Ashley smiled. Not warm, confident, controlled. I always do. Back in the Carter home, the day moved on, like it always did. Work, orders, deliveries, conversations. Small things, real things. Naomi didn't mention the announcement again. Not to her mother, not to anyone. Because in her mind, it had already passed. It didn't belong to her story, not yet. Later that afternoon, Naomi sat outside, on the small porch, a notebook in her lap. She wasn't writing anything important, just lists, numbers, plans for the next day. Simple things, things she could control. A group of kids passed by, loud, laughing. One of them stopped. Miss Naomi, he called. Are you coming tomorrow? Naomi looked up. Coming where? She asked. To the library, he said. You said you'd help us with reading. Naomi paused just for a second, then nodded. Yeah, I'll be there. The boy grinned, ran off. Naomi watched him go. Her expression softened slightly, then returned to neutral. Across the street, Ashley stepped out again, phone in hand, already talking. Yeah, I'll start tomorrow. she said. "I'll need a photographer and someone to handle posting." She paced, slowly, confident. Certain. "No, it doesn't have to be real," she added, lowering her voice slightly. "It just has to look real." Naomi heard that part, not clearly, but enough. She didn't react, didn't look up. But something in her chest tightened, just slightly. Not anger, not yet, just awareness. That the same opportunity could mean very different things. For some, it was a platform. For others, it was a responsibility. But Naomi still pushed the thought away, still told herself it wasn't her place. That night, as she sat by the window again, the radio replayed the announcement, same words, same tone. Open to all backgrounds. Real impact. Naomi stared out into the dark. The street was quiet now. The wall stood still between the two houses. Same as always. But something felt different. Not outside, inside. A small question, quiet, persistent. What if it is meant for you? She shook her head slightly, almost dismissing it. But the question didn't leave. It stayed, not loud, not demanding, just present, waiting. And sometimes, that's how change begins. Not with certainty, but with a question you can't ignore. And while Naomi was still trying to decide whether to listen to that voice, others had already made their move, and that would soon force her to make one of her own. The question didn't leave her, it stayed, quiet, patient, like it knew it had time. The Hayes Foundation announcement kept replaying in Naomi's mind, not loudly, not like a dream, more like a whisper that refused to fade. She didn't talk about it, not to her mother, not to anyone. But it followed her, into the kitchen, into the street, into the quiet moments when she finally stopped moving. One afternoon, Naomi was sitting outside the small community library, same place she had been going for months, no cameras, no posts, no attention. Just a few kids, worn books, and time. She sat on a low step, a notebook open in front of her. 3 children gathered around. One of them struggled with a sentence. "Sound it out," Naomi said gently. Slowly. The boy tried again, stumbled, then got it right. His face lit up. "See?" Naomi smiled softly. You knew it. A woman passing by paused, watched for a moment, then walked closer. "You've been doing this long?" she asked. Naomi looked up, slightly surprised. "A while," she said. "Whenever they need help?" The woman nodded, thoughtful. "You don't charge?" Naomi shook her head. "No." The woman smiled. "Not big, but real." "That's rare," she said quietly. Then she added something that Naomi didn't expect, you know? "People are talking about you." "People are." Naomi frowned slightly. "Talking?" "About this," the woman said, gesturing toward the kids. "About how you've been helping them, for free, consistently." Naomi didn't know what to say. Because to her, this wasn't something worth talking about. It was just something that needed to be done, the woman continued. "You ever heard of the Hayes Foundation program?" Naomi paused. There it was again. That name, that same quiet pull. "Yeah," she said slowly, "I heard." The woman studied her for a moment, then said it plainly. "You should apply." Naomi blinked once. That simple, that direct. "I don't think," she started, then stopped because the sentence didn't feel right. The woman tilted her head. "You don't think what?" Naomi hesitated. The truth sat there, heavy, honest. "I don't think I'm what they're looking for." The woman didn't argue, didn't rush to correct her. She just asked one question. Why not? Naomi looked down at her hands. "Because I don't have anything special." The woman let that sit for a second, then nodded slowly. "That's interesting," she said. Naomi looked up, confused. "Why?" "Because from where I'm standing," the woman said, "you're doing exactly what they asked for." Naomi didn't respond, because she didn't know how to. The conversation ended there. The woman left. The kids returned to their books. But something had shifted again. That night, Naomi sat by the window. Same place, same chair, But her thoughts were louder now, clearer. What if she's right? What if this is exactly what they meant? She leaned forward slightly, elbows on her knees, hands clasped. Then the doubt came. Fast, familiar. What if I'm not enough? What if I apply and fail? What if they see me the same way Ashley does? The thoughts stacked quickly, one on top of another, trying to push her back into silence, into safety, into staying where she was. But then, another memory surfaced. Her father, years ago, sitting at the same table, same house, same quiet strength in his voice. You don't need money to have value, he had said. And you don't need permission to prove it. Naomi closed her eyes for a second, let the words settle, because they still felt true. Even now. Especially now. She opened her eyes again, slower this time, more certain. Maybe I don't need to be perfect, maybe I just need to be honest. The next morning, Naomi woke up earlier than usual. Not because she had to, but because she couldn't stay still anymore. She sat at the small table, a blank form in front of her. Application. Simple, direct, name, background, experience, no tricks, no hidden requirements, just truth. Her pen hovered over the paper. For a moment, she froze, not out of fear, but out of awareness, because this was a step, small but real. A step away from what Ashley believed about her, a step toward something unknown. She took a breath, then started writing. Slowly, carefully. Each word chosen, not to impress, but to reflect. Who she was, what she had done, why it mattered. Why? She didn't exaggerate, didn't decorate. She just told the truth. And for the first time, that felt like enough. When she finished, she looked at the page, not smiling, not celebrating, just steady. Because this wasn't a victory. Not yet. It was a beginning. Later that day, as she walked past the Whitmore house again, Ashley stood by the gate, watching, waiting. Heard about the foundation thing? Ashley said casually. Naomi didn't stop. I'm applying, Ashley added. Of course you are, Naomi said quietly. Ashley smirked. You should try too. It'll be funny. Naomi paused just slightly, then looked at her, calm, unshaken. Maybe I will, she said. Ashley blinked, surprised, just for a second, then laughed. Good luck with that. Naomi didn't respond. She didn't need to, because something had already changed. Not outside, not in the world, but inside her. And that's where real change always begins. And as Naomi took that quiet step forward, neither of them realized. The next phase wouldn't be about words anymore. It would be about preparation. Preparation didn't look the same on both sides of the wall, not even close, on one side. It was polished, planned, controlled. On the other, it was quiet, uncertain, but real. In the Whitmore estate, everything moved fast. Ashley didn't wait. She acted. Calls were made, meetings scheduled, people brought in. By the second day, the house looked different. Not because it needed to, but because it had to perform. A stylist arrived first, tall, confident, measuring tapes around her neck. We need something approachable, she said, flipping through fabric samples, but still elevated. Ashley nodded. Nothing too simple, she added. I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard. The stylist smiled slightly. Of course, dresses were laid out, shoes lined up, colors discussed like strategy, not expression, every detail calculated. Later that afternoon, a PR coach joined, laptop open, notes ready. The key is relatability, he said, but controlled relatability. Ashley leaned forward, interested. Explain. You need to look like you care, he continued, but not like you need anything. Ashley nodded slowly. So, Empathy without vulnerability. The coach smiled. Exactly. They practiced lines, over and over. I've always believed in giving back. Community matters to me. We rise by lifting others. Ashley repeated them, adjusting tone, adjusting pauses, making it sound natural, even when it wasn't. Cameras were brought in next. Not for the event, for the preparation. Clips of Ashley visiting a local shelter, handing out supplies, smiling, listening, always positioned perfectly in frame. "Do it again," the cameraman said. "That angle didn't catch your expression." Ashley sighed slightly, then reset. Smiled again, bent down. "Are you okay?" she asked a child she had just met. The child nodded, confused. The camera captured it. That was enough. Back at the house, the footage was reviewed, edited, posted. Comments came quickly. "So inspiring. You're amazing." Ashley scrolled through them, satisfied. Not because they were true, but because they were effective. On the other side of the wall, preparation looked different. It didn't arrive in a car. It didn't come with instructions. It grew slowly from people, from small acts, from care. Naomi didn't tell anyone she had applied. Not at first. But somehow, people found out. It started with the woman from the library, then the kids, then a neighbor. And before Naomi realized it, she wasn't preparing alone anymore. One evening, she came home to find Mrs. Lopez waiting on the porch, a small bag in her hand. "I heard you're going to some kind of interview," she said. Naomi blinked. "It's not exactly," she started. "Mrs.?" Lopez waved her off. "Doesn't matter," she said. "You still need something to wear." She handed over the bag, inside. A simple dress. Clean. Light blue. Not new, but well cared for. Naomi touched the fabric gently. "I can't take this," she said. "Mrs.?" Lopez shook her head. "You can," she replied. "And you will." Naomi hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Thank you." "The next day, mister," Harris stopped by. "Heard you might need help speaking," he said. Naomi frowned slightly. "Speaking?" "In front of people," he clarified. "That kind of thing matters." Naomi thought for a second, then nodded. "Yeah. Maybe." They sat outside, practiced simple things. Eye contact, pauses, breathing. "Don't rush, mister," Harris said. "Let them hear you." Naomi tried, stumbled, tried again. No cameras, no scripts, just repetition. Real effort, real growth. Days passed. The dress was adjusted. By hand, late at night, Grace sat at the table, needle moving slowly, carefully, fixing the seams. "Hold still," she said softly. Naomi stood in front of her, arms relaxed, watching her mother work. "It doesn't have to be perfect," Naomi said. Grace didn't look up. "It has to be right," she replied. There was a difference. Naomi understood that. One evening, Naomi practiced alone, standing in front of the small mirror. "My name is Naomi Carter," she said, then stopped, shook her head slightly, tried again. "I've been working with children in my community." Her voice was steady, but not confident yet. She paused, looked at herself. Really looked. Not at her clothes, not at her hair, at her eyes. "What do you actually want to say?" The question stayed. She closed her eyes for a moment, then spoke again, slower this time. "I don't have much," she said quietly, "but I've learned that sometimes showing up is enough to change something." She opened her eyes. That felt closer, not perfect, but true. Across the wall, Ashley stood in front of a full-length mirror, surrounded by options, dresses, shoes, jewelry, all chosen, all ready. "Which one feels more authentic?" the stylist asked. Ashley studied her reflection, tilted her head slightly. "This one," she said, pointing. "It looks effortless." The stylist nodded. "It does. But nothing about it was effortless, not really. Everything had been designed to look that way. Back in the Carter home, Naomi sat with her mother. Quiet. No rehearsing, no planning, just being. Grace looked at her for a moment. "You're nervous," she said. Naomi smiled slightly. "A little?" Grace nodded. "That's good." Naomi looked at her. "Why?" "Because it means you care," Grace replied. Silence settled between them. Comfortable. Honest. Naomi leaned back slightly, took a breath. "I don't know if I'll get it," she admitted. Grace didn't rush to reassure her, didn't promise anything. She just said one thing. "That's not the point." Naomi frowned slightly. "Then what is?" Grace met her eyes. "The point is, you showed up." Naomi nodded slowly, letting that sink in, because maybe that was enough. Maybe it always had been. And as both sides finished preparing, one with control, the other with truth, neither of them knew. The moment that would define everything was already waiting. The day finally came. Not loud, not dramatic, but heavy. The kind of day that feels important, even before anything happens. Naomi woke up early, earlier than usual. Not because she had to, but because sleep didn't stay. Her eyes opened, and her mind was already moving. Quiet, focused. She sat up slowly, looked around the small room, same walls, same chair, same life. But today, something was different. She reached for the dress, the light blue one, carefully placed on the back of the chair. Pressed, clean, ready, not expensive, not perfect, but prepared with care. Perfect, but she ran her hand over it just once, then got dressed. In the kitchen, Grace was already there. Of course she was. She looked up as Naomi walked in. No long speech, no pressure, just a look, deep, steady. "Eat something," Grace said softly. Naomi nodded. Took a few bites. Not much. Her stomach wasn't ready. But she tried because she knew. Today required strength. Today, outside, the street looked the same. But it didn't feel the same. Naomi stepped out. The air was warm, still, like everything was waiting. Across the wall, the Whitmore gate opened. Ashley stepped out. Perfect as expected, her outfit. Flawless, every detail aligned. Hair, makeup, shoes, even her posture looked practiced. She glanced at Naomi, a small smile. Not kind, not cruel, just confident. "Big day?" Ashley said lightly. Naomi nodded. "Yeah." Ashley adjusted her bag. "Try not to embarrass yourself." Naomi didn't respond. She didn't need to. Because this wasn't about Ashley anymore. Not today. The venue was larger than Naomi expected. Clean, bright, professional. People moved with purpose. Names were called. Papers checked. Conversations filled the air. Naomi walked in quietly, observing, taking it in. No rush, no panic. Just awareness. Ashley entered differently. Head high, eyes forward, like she belonged there, like the room had been waiting for her. She greeted people, smiled at the right moments, every movement controlled, every word measured. Naomi found a seat near the side, not hiding, just choosing space. She watched others, different backgrounds, different stories, some nervous, some confident, some trying too hard, some not enough. Then the announcement came. "We will begin shortly." The room settled. Silence spread. And that's when it happened. Not on stage, not planned, not expected. And not. The door at the back opened. An older woman stepped in. Slowly, carefully. She wasn't dressed like the others. Simple coat, comfortable shoes. No attention, no introduction. She walked forward, looking for a seat, people noticed, but only briefly, because she didn't stand out in the way they expected. She took another step, then another, and suddenly she slipped. It wasn't dramatic, no loud crash, just a misstep, a loss of balance. Then she fell, hard enough to matter, soft enough to be ignored, if you chose to. For a second, the room froze. Not moving, not reacting, just watching. Ashley saw it. Of course she did. She hesitated, just a moment, then looked away. Her expression shifted. Slight annoyance. Someone should help her, she muttered. But she didn't move, because this wasn't part of the plan. Naomi saw it too, but she didn't pause. She didn't calculate. She didn't think about cameras, or impressions, or outcomes. She stood up, immediately, moved fast, reached the woman. "Are you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside her, her voice calm, steady. The woman winced slightly. I think so," she said. Naomi checked her arm, her shoulder, careful, respectful. "Can you stand?" Naomi asked. The woman tried, struggled. Naomi supported her, gently, firmly. "Take your time," Naomi said. Around them, people were watching again, but still not moving, still not stepping in. Ashley glanced over, then back at her phone, uncomfortable now, not because of the fall, but because of the attention shifting. Naomi helped the woman to a chair, sat beside her. "Do you need a doctor?" she asked. The woman shook her head slightly. "Just a moment." Naomi nodded, stayed, didn't leave, didn't look around, didn't check if anyone was watching. She just stayed, because that's what the moment needed. A staff member approached. "We can take her to the side," he said. Naomi looked at the woman. "Would you like that?" The woman hesitated, then nodded. Naomi stood again, helped her up, walked with her, slowly, step by step, away from the main room, away from the event, away from everything she came for. Yes. Ashley watched, this time longer, her expression tighter, because now something felt off, not wrong, just out of control. Naomi reached the hallway, helped the woman sit again. "I can call someone," she said. "Or take you to the hospital." The woman looked at her. Really looked this time, studying her face. Not her clothes, not her background. Just her. "Would you?" she asked quietly. Naomi didn't hesitate, of course. No pause, no second thought. She turned to the staff. "Can someone help us get a car?" she asked. The staff member nodded. Yes. Minutes later, Naomi was outside, helping the woman into a vehicle. The event behind her, the opportunity. Behind her, she didn't look back, not once. Because in her mind, this choice wasn't complicated. It wasn't sacrifice. It was simple. A person needed help, so she helped. Inside the car, the woman sat quietly, then spoke. "You didn't have to do that." Naomi shook her head slightly. "Yes, I did." The car door closed, the engine started, and as they drove away, Naomi had no idea what she had just done. Not for the event, not for her future, but for something much bigger. Something no script could plan. And inside that building, as the event continued without her, someone had been watching. Closely. Carefully. And that observation was about to change everything. The car ride was quiet, not uncomfortable, just still. Naomi sat beside the older woman, hands resting in her lap, eyes forward, focused, not on the outcome, not on the event she had just left behind, just on the moment in front of her. The woman adjusted slightly in her seat, breathing steady now, no longer in pain, but watching, observing, studying Naomi without making it obvious. "You didn't go back," the woman said after a while. Naomi shook her head. "No. You might have missed something important." Naomi thought about that, just for a second, then answered honestly. "Maybe." The woman turned her head slightly. "And that doesn't bother you?" Naomi looked out the window, the streets passing slowly, familiar, grounded. "Not really," she said. "You needed help." Silence again. But this time, it carried weight. Because that answer was not rehearsed, not polished, not designed. It was simple and real. The car pulled up in front of a private medical building. Clean, quiet, not crowded, not public. Naomi noticed that, but didn't question it. She stepped out first, helped the woman carefully, walked beside her inside. A nurse approached immediately. "No waiting, no forms, just action. We've been expecting you," the nurse said gently. Naomi paused, slightly confused, but said nothing. The woman was guided to a room. Naomi stayed near the door, not intruding, not assuming she belonged there, just making sure everything was okay. Minutes passed, then longer. Naomi stood, sat, stood again, not restless, just present. Finally, the door opened. The woman stepped out, different now. Not physically, but in presence, more upright, more certain. "You can come in," she said softly. Naomi hesitated. "Are you sure?" The woman nodded. Naomi stepped inside. The room was simple, but something about it felt intentional. Not like a regular hospital space, more like a place where decisions were made, not just treatments. The woman sat down, looked directly at Naomi, no hesitation now, no distance. "What's your name?" she asked. "Naomi Carter," Naomi replied. The woman nodded slowly. "Naomi." She repeated it, like she was placing it somewhere important. Then she took a breath and said something that shifted everything. "My name is Eleanor Hayes." Naomi blinked once, processing that name. That same name from the radio, from the announcement, from the program. The woman continued, "I founded the Hayes Foundation." Silence filled the room. Not empty. Heavy. Naomi didn't speak, not because she was shocked in a loud way, but because her mind was aligning something she hadn't expected. The moment, the fall, the decision. It wasn't staged, but it mattered. Eleanor watched her carefully. "You didn't know," she said. Naomi shook her head slowly. "No." "Good," Eleanor replied. A small smile, not performative, genuine. "That makes it more meaningful." Naomi stood still, not stepping forward, not stepping back, just present. "There was a room full of candidates today," Eleanor continued. "All prepared, all ready to say the right things." Naomi lowered her eyes slightly, not out of discomfort, but reflection. "You left," Eleanor said, without hesitation. Naomi met her gaze again. "You needed help, same answer, same tone, no change," Eleanor nodded. "And that's exactly the point." The door opened again. Another person entered. Tall, well-dressed. Calm, observing. He didn't interrupt, just stood there for a moment, watching Naomi. Then Eleanor spoke. "This is my son, Lucas Hayes." Naomi turned slightly. Lucas gave a small nod. "I saw everything," he said, his voice low, controlled, not emotional, but not distant either. Naomi didn't know how to respond, so she didn't try. Lucas stepped closer, not too close, just enough. "Most people perform when they think it matters," he said. "You didn't." Naomi frowned slightly. "I wasn't thinking about that," she said. Lucas nodded. "Exactly." That word stayed in the room, stronger than anything else, because it carried truth. Eleanor leaned back slightly, studying Naomi again. "Do you know what we're actually looking for?" she asked. Naomi shook her head. "Not really." Eleanor smiled faintly. "Neither do most applicants," she said. Then she added, slower this time. "We're not looking for perfection. We're not looking for presentation. We're looking for alignment." Naomi listened fully. Alignment between what someone says and what they do, when no one is asking. Silence again. But this time, it felt clear, defined. Lucas spoke again. "There were cameras today," he said. "In the room, in the hallways, outside." Naomi's eyes shifted slightly, not fear, not concern, just awareness. "We saw everything," he continued. "Who moved, who didn't, who looked away, who stepped in." Naomi didn't ask what that meant because she understood, without needing it explained. Eleanor leaned forward slightly. "You didn't perform for us," she said, "which is why we can trust what we saw." Naomi took a slow breath. This moment felt different, not overwhelming, not dramatic, but important. "I didn't do anything special," she said quietly. Eleanor shook her head. "You did exactly what mattered." That was the difference. Lucas looked at Naomi for a few seconds longer, then nodded. Not approval, not final decision, but recognition. "We'll be in touch," he said. Simple, professional, but something in his tone suggested more. Naomi nodded. Okay. She didn't ask for results, didn't push, didn't try to extend the moment because that wasn't who she was. She turned slightly, ready to leave. Eleanor spoke one last time. "Naomi?" Naomi looked back. "Yes?" Eleanor held her gaze. "Thank you." Naomi nodded, then walked out. The hallway felt quieter now. Not because it had changed, but because she had. Outside, the same street waited. The same world, the same wall. But something invisible had shifted. Not in her environment, in her path. And as Naomi walked back toward everything she had known, decisions were already being made. Conversations already happening, and forces she couldn't see were beginning to move in her direction. News doesn't always travel loudly. Sometimes it moves quietly, through conversations, through looks, through people who think they know something, and people who want to control it. Ashley didn't know everything, not yet, but she knew enough to feel it. Something had shifted. The event didn't go the way she expected, the attention didn't stay where she placed it, and that bothered her more than she wanted to admit. That evening, she sat in the living room, phone in hand, scrolling, refreshing, looking for something, a post, a mention, a sign that she was still in control of the narrative. But nothing came. No headlines, no highlights, no recognition. Just silence? "That's strange," she muttered. Daniel Whitmore looked up from his chair. "What is?" Ashley hesitated, then spoke carefully. "The foundation event," she said. "There's nothing about it." Daniel watched her for a moment, then set his glass down. "That usually means something important happened," he said calmly. Ashley frowned. "What do you mean?" Daniel leaned forward slightly. "It means they're deciding quietly," he replied. That sentence landed because it meant things were happening behind the scenes, without her control, without her influence. Ashley sat back, thinking. Fast. Then something clicked. Naomi. That image came back, clear, sharp. The moment in the hallway, the way Naomi left, without hesitation, without looking back. Ashley's expression tightened. "She left," Ashley said slowly. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Who?" "Naomi," Ashley replied. "She walked out, with that old woman." Daniel didn't react immediately, but his eyes shifted slightly, interested now. "And?" Ashley leaned forward. "And what if that mattered?" Silence, not empty. Calculating, Daniel stood up slowly, walked toward the window, looked out. "If it mattered," he said quietly, "then we need to understand how." Ashley stood too. "I don't think it's random," she added. Daniel nodded once, then turned, decision made. "We'll find out." And just like that, it started, not loudly, not publicly, but deliberately. The next day, conversations began. Small at first, controlled. People in the neighborhood were approached, not directly, not aggressively, just casually. "Have you heard about Naomi Carter?" someone would ask. "She applied for something big, then a pause, then a suggestion. I wonder if she's really qualified." It didn't sound like an attack, not at first, just a question. But questions, when repeated enough, become doubt, and doubt spreads. In another part of the street, a different version appeared. "I heard she exaggerates her work with the kids. Someone said she only helps when people are watching. No proof, no evidence, Just words, carefully placed, strategically repeated. Some people listened, some nodded. Some stayed quiet, but not everyone accepted it, Mrs. Lopez heard the same thing, stopped, turned. "That's not true," she said firmly. The man speaking shrugged. "Just what I heard, Mrs." Lopez stepped closer. "Then you heard wrong." Her voice didn't rise, but it didn't bend either, because she had seen Naomi day after day. Résumé, no cameras, no audience, just consistency. "Mister." Harris was approached too. "You know her, right?" someone asked. He nodded. "Then you should tell people the truth," the voice added. "Mister." Harris looked at them, calm, steady. "I already do," he replied. Not everyone could be influenced, not everyone could be bought, but that didn't stop the effort. Because the goal wasn't truth. The goal was confusion. And confusion was enough to create distance. Meanwhile, Naomi knew none of this. She moved through her days the same way she always had. Work, teaching, helping, no change in rhythm, no awareness of the pressure building around her. That was the most dangerous part, because while she stayed grounded, others were moving pieces she couldn't see. One afternoon, Naomi noticed something small, a conversation that stopped when she walked by, a look that lingered a little too long, a pause where there used to be ease. She didn't react, but she noticed because she always did. She just didn't know why. That night, she sat by the window again. Same place, same stillness. But something felt different. Not fear, not anxiety, just tension, like tsikit, like something was shifting beneath the surface. She leaned back slightly, thinking, not about the foundation, not about the event, just about the people around her, the small changes, the subtle distance, and for the first time, she asked herself a question she hadn't needed before. Is something wrong? Or is something being made to look wrong? Across the wall, Ashley stood in her room, phone to her ear. "Keep talking to them," she said quietly. "Just enough." She paused, listening, then added, "No, don't push too hard. Let it grow naturally." She ended the call, looked at her reflection, and for a moment, she smiled. Not wide, not obvious, just enough to show satisfaction because control was returning, or at least it felt that way. But control built on doubt is never stable. And while Ashley believed she was shaping the outcome, something else was already forming, something stronger, something based on truth, and truth doesn't need to be repeated to survive. It only needs to be seen, and soon. It would be. The room didn't feel like a competition anymore. It felt like a courtroom. Not the kind with a judge and a hammer, the kind where people carry their own truth and wait to see if it will be believed. Naomi walked in quietly, same as always. No performance, no adjustment, just presence. But this time, people looked at her differently, not all of them. Some eyes were uncertain, some curious, some already decided. She noticed it, of course she did. But she didn't react. She just took a seat, hands folded, breathing steady. Across the room, Ashley stood near her father. Perfect posture, perfect expression, but not perfect control. Not anymore, because something had shifted, and she could feel it, even if she didn't understand it yet. Eleanor Hayes stepped forward. No introduction needed this time. Everyone knew who she was now. "Today is simple," she said. Calm. Clear. "We are not here to hear what people can say." A pause. Then, "We are here to understand what people have done." Silence settled immediately. Not awkward, just focused. "We will listen," Eleanor continued. "And we will verify." That word, verify, it changed the air, because stories can be shaped, but truth can be checked. The first voice came from the left side of the room. A man Naomi had seen before. Not close, not distant, just someone from the street. I heard she only helps when people are watching, he said. Not aggressive, just repeating. That was the pattern, not accusation. Echo. Naomi didn't move, didn't respond. She didn't need to. Another voice followed. A woman this time. Someone told me she exaggerates what she does for the kids. A few heads nodded, not in agreement, in uncertainty. That was the damage the rumors had done. Not convincing people, just making them unsure. Ashley's eyes moved slightly, watching, measuring, because this part she expected. This part she had built. Then something changed, Mrs. Lopez stood up, slowly but firmly. That's not true, she said, no hesitation. No decoration, just truth. The room shifted, not loudly but clearly. I've seen her, Mrs. Lopez continued. Not once, not twice, many times. No phone, no camera, no audience. She looked around, let the words settle. She shows up when no one is looking. That sentence landed deeper than anything before because it wasn't a defense, it was evidence, mister. Harris stood next. She helped my grandson learn how to read, he said. No one asked her to. No one paid her. He paused, then added quietly, people who fake kindness don't do it that long. More voices followed, not loud, not emotional, just steady, each one adding a piece, a memory, a moment, a pattern, and patterns are hard to argue with. Ashley's jaw tightened slightly, because this wasn't breaking the way she expected. Not even close. Eleanor listened. Didn't interrupt, didn't guide, just let it unfold. Then she nodded once and signaled to the side. A screen was brought forward. Small, simple, but suddenly, it felt heavy. There is one more thing we need to see, Eleanor said. Ashley's chest tightened, just a little. She didn't move, but her fingers pressed together. The video started. No music, no edits, just raw footage. Naomi standing at her small food stand. Quiet, focused. Then the car, the camera, Ashley's voice, clear, sharp. You smell like kitchen oil? A soft laugh followed. Then another clip. Maid's blood, louder this time, more confident. Then the final one, the one that stayed. You will never leave this street. Silence, complete, no movement, no whisper, no reaction, just truth. Sitting in the middle of the room, unavoidable. Ashley didn't look at the screen. She couldn't. But she felt it. Every second of it, because once something is real, you don't need to see it to know it's there. Naomi didn't react either. No smile, no relief, no satisfaction, because this wasn't victory, this was exposure, and those are not the same thing. Eleanor stepped forward slightly. This, she said calmly, is why we don't rely on impressions. She let the sentence sit, then added, because impressions can be built, a pause, but actions reveal themselves. Ashley finally stood, slow, controlled. That video doesn't show everything, she said, her voice steady, but thinner now. Eleanor turned to her. Then tell us, she said, not aggressive, not defensive, just open. Ashley opened her mouth, then stopped. Because there was nothing to add that could change what had already been seen, and that was the moment everything turned. Not because someone won, but because something became clear. Daniel Whitmore did not speak, not this time, because even he understood. Some situations can't be negotiated. Eleanor looked around the room one last time. We don't decide based on noise, she said. We decide based on consistency. Her eyes moved. And stopped on Naomi, not long, but enough, because everyone saw it, everyone understood it, and in that moment, the balance shifted completely. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. Naomi didn't stand, didn't move, because she didn't need to. The truth had already moved for her. And as the room settled into a silence that felt final, one thing became undeniable. This was no longer a question of who deserved the opportunity, but a clear reflection of who had lived it all along. And the final outcome was now only a matter of time. The decision didn't come with applause. It came quietly, the way real decisions do. No music, no dramatic pause, just Eleanor Hayes stepping forward one last time. The room was still, not tense anymore, not confused, just ready. "We have reached our conclusion," she said calmly. No one moved. No one whispered. Even Ashley didn't look up this time, because somewhere inside, she already knew. Eleanor's eyes moved across the room, then stopped. "Naomi Carter," she said. Just 2 words, but they carried everything. Naomi didn't react immediately, not because she didn't hear, but because she processed slowly, carefully, like she always did. The room shifted. Heads turned, not surprised. Not really, because the truth had already been seen. This was just confirmation. Naomi stood up, not proud, not overwhelmed, just steady. "Yes," she said quietly. Eleanor nodded. "You have been selected as the community education ambassador. No applause, not yet. Just silence, respectful, solid. Because this wasn't a victory built on performance, it was recognition built on consistency." Naomi took a breath, a small one, then nodded. "Thank you." That was all she said. No speech, no explanation, just acknowledgement. Eleanor studied her for a moment, then asked, "Would you like to say anything?" Naomi paused, not long, just enough. She looked around the room. The same people, the same faces, some who doubted, some who supported, some who stayed quiet. Then she spoke. "I didn't come here to be seen," she said, her voice calm, clear. "I came because I thought maybe I could do more." A pause. She didn't rush. "But I'm already doing what matters." The room listened fully. "So I'll accept the responsibility," she continued. "But not the spotlight." That sentence landed. Different, unexpected, real. Eleanor raised an eyebrow slightly. "What do you mean?" Naomi met her gaze. "I'll keep working," she said. "The same way I always have. No performance, no shift, no transformation into something else, just continuation." Lucas Hayes watched her, quiet, focused, then gave a small nod, not approval, recognition, because that choice confirmed everything they had seen. Ashley sat frozen, not angry, not emotional, just empty, because for the first time, there was nothing left to say. No argument, no defense, no version of the story that could change what had already happened. Her image had collapsed. Not suddenly, but completely. Daniel Whitmore placed a hand on her shoulder, light, controlled. "We're leaving," he said quietly. Ashley didn't argue, didn't resist. She stood up, walked out, not rushed, but not confident either, just quiet. And that was the real consequence. Not punishment, not humiliation, but exposure. Because when the truth is clear, people don't need to say anything. They just see you differently. Days passed. The street returned to normal. Almost. But not really, because something had changed, not in the houses, not in the walls, but in how people looked at each other. Naomi continued her work. Same table, same kids, same rhythm, no cameras, no announcements, just presence, consistency, reality. People still passed by, but now, they didn't just see a girl selling food, they saw something else. Something they hadn't recognized before. Value. Respect. Not given, earned. Ashley stopped coming outside as often when she did. It was different, No comments, no laughter, no attention-seeking. Just distance, because once a certain image breaks, it doesn't rebuild easily. One afternoon, Naomi was sitting on the porch, quiet, writing something in her notebook. The street was calm, then. A sound, low at first, then clearer. Engines. Not one, multiple. Naomi looked up, slowly. A line of black SUVs turned onto the street. Clean, polished, moving in perfect formation. Not fast, not slow, just precise. People stepped outside, doors opened, curtains moved, because this didn't happen here. Not on this street. The cars stopped right in front of Naomi's house. The doors opened. One by one, men in suits stepped out. Then Lucas Hayes, then Eleanor Hayes. Naomi stood up. Not rushed, not confused, just present. Eleanor walked toward her, smiling slightly. Not formal, not distant. "We thought we should come to you," she said. Naomi looked at her, then at the cars, then back. "You didn't have to," she replied softly. Eleanor nodded. "We know." A pause, then she added, "That's why we did." The neighbors watched, silent, because now the story had come full circle, not in a dramatic way, but in a real one. Naomi stood there, same place she had always stood, but the world had come to meet her, not because she chased it, but because she stayed true long enough for it to find her. And as the engines quieted and the moment settled into something unforgettable, one thing became clear: respect is not given to those who demand it, but to those who live in a way that makes it undeniable. And that truth was only the beginning of something even greater. The decision didn't come with applause. It came quietly, the way real decisions do. No music, no dramatic pause, just Eleanor Hayes stepping forward one last time. The room was still. Not tense anymore, not confused, just ready. "We have reached our conclusion," she said calmly. No one moved. No one whispered. Even Ashley didn't look up this time, because somewhere inside, she already knew. Eleanor's eyes moved across the room, then stopped. "Naomi Carter," she said. Just 2 words, but they carried everything. Naomi didn't react immediately, not because she didn't hear, but because she processed slowly, carefully, like she always did. The room shifted. Heads turned. Not surprised, not really, because the truth had already been seen. This was just confirmation. Naomi stood up, not proud, not overwhelmed, just steady. "Yes," she said quietly. Eleanor nodded. "You have been selected as the Community Education Ambassador. No applause, not yet. Just silence, respectful, solid, because this wasn't a victory built on performance. It was recognition built on consistency." Naomi took a breath, a small one, then nodded. "Thank you." That was all she said. No speech, no explanation, just acknowledgement. Eleanor studied her for a moment, then asked, "Would you like to say anything?" Naomi paused. Not long, just enough. She looked around the room. The same people, the same faces. Some who doubted, some who supported, some who stayed quiet. Then she spoke. "I didn't come here to be seen," she said, her voice calm, clear. "I came because I thought maybe I could do more." A pause. She didn't rush. "But I'm already doing what matters." The room listened, fully. "So I'll accept the responsibility," she continued. "But not the spotlight." That sentence landed. Different, unexpected, real. Eleanor raised an eyebrow slightly. "What do you mean?" Naomi met her gaze. "I'll keep working," she said. "The same way I always have. No performance, no shift, no transformation into something else, just continuation." Lucas Hayes watched her, quiet, focused, then gave a small nod. Not approval. Recognition. Because that choice, confirmed everything they had seen. Ashley sat frozen, not angry, not emotional, just empty. Because for the first time, there was nothing left to say, no argument, no defense, no version of the story that could change what had already happened. Her image had collapsed, not suddenly, but completely. Daniel Whitmore placed a hand on her shoulder, light, controlled. "We're leaving," he said quietly. Ashley didn't argue, didn't resist. She stood up, walked out, not rushed, but not confident either. Just quiet. And that was the real consequence, not punishment, not humiliation, but exposure. Because when the truth is clear, people don't need to say anything. They just see you differently. Days passed. The street returned to normal. Almost, but not really, because something had changed. Not in the houses, not in the walls, but in how people looked at each other. Naomi continued her work. Same table, same kids, same rhythm. No cameras, no announcements. Just presence, consistency, reality. People still passed by. But now, they didn't just see a girl selling food. They saw something else. Something they hadn't recognized before. Value, respect, not given, earned. Ashley stopped coming outside as often. When she did, it was different. No comments, no laughter, no attention-seeking, just distance. Because once a certain image breaks, it doesn't rebuild easily. One afternoon, Naomi was sitting on the porch, quiet, writing something in her notebook. The street was calm, then. A sound, low at first, then clearer. Engines. Not one, multiple. Naomi looked up, slowly. A line of black SUVs turned onto the street. Clean, polished, moving in perfect formation. Not fast, not slow, just precise. People stepped outside. Doors opened. Curtains moved. Because this didn't happen here, not on this street. The cars stopped, right in front of Naomi's house. The doors opened, one by one. Men in suits stepped out. Then Lucas Hayes, then Eleanor Hayes. Naomi stood up, not rushed, not confused, just present. Eleanor walked toward her, smiling slightly. Not formal, not distant. "We thought we should come to you," she said. Naomi looked at her, then at the cars, then back. "You didn't have to," she replied softly. Eleanor nodded. "We know." A pause, then she added, "That's why we did." The neighbors watched, silent, because now the story had come full circle, not in a dramatic way, but in a real one. Naomi stood there, same place she had always stood, but the world had come to meet her, not because she chased it, but because she stayed true long enough for it to find her. And as the engines quieted, and the moment settled into something unforgettable, one thing became clear. Respect is not given to those who demand it, but to those who live in a way that makes it undeniable. And that truth was only the beginning of something even greater. The decision didn't come with applause. It came quietly, the way real decisions do. No music, no dramatic pause, just Eleanor Hayes stepping forward one last time. The room was still, not tense anymore, not confused, just ready. "We have reached our conclusion," she said calmly. No one moved, no one whispered. Even Ashley didn't look up this time, because somewhere inside, she already knew. Eleanor's eyes moved across the room, then stopped. "Naomi Carter," she said. Just 2 words, but they carried everything. Naomi didn't react immediately, not because she didn't hear, but because she processed slowly, carefully, like she always did. The room shifted. Heads turned, not surprised, not really because the truth had already been seen. This was just confirmation. Naomi stood up, not proud, not overwhelmed, just steady. "Yes," she said quietly. Eleanor nodded. "You have been selected as the Community Education Ambassador. No applause, not yet. Just silence, respectful, solid. Because this wasn't a victory built on performance. It was recognition built on consistency." Naomi took a breath, a small one, then nodded. "Thank you." That was all she said. No speech, no explanation, just acknowledgement. Eleanor studied her for a moment, then asked, "Would you like to say anything?" Naomi paused. Not long, just enough. She looked around the room. The same people, the same faces, some who doubted, some who supported, some who stayed quiet. Then she spoke. "I didn't come here to be seen," she said, her voice calm, clear. "I came because I thought, maybe I could do more." A pause. She didn't rush. "But I'm already doing what matters." The room listened fully. "So I'll accept the responsibility," she continued. "But not the spotlight," that sentence landed. Different, unexpected, real. Eleanor raised an eyebrow slightly. "What do you mean?" Naomi met her gaze. "I'll keep working," she said. "The same way I always have. No performance, no shift, no transformation into something else. Just continuation." Lucas Hayes watched her. Quiet, focused. Then gave a small nod. Not approval. Recognition. Because that choice confirmed everything they had seen. Ashley sat frozen. Not angry. Not emotional. Just empty. Because for the first time, there was nothing left to say. No argument, no defense, no version of the story that could change what had already happened. Her image had collapsed. Not suddenly, but completely. Daniel Whitmore placed a hand on her shoulder. Light, controlled. "We're leaving," he said quietly. Ashley didn't argue. Didn't resist. She stood up, walked out. Not rushed, but not confident either. Just quiet. And that was the real consequence. Not punishment, not humiliation, but exposure. Because when the truth is clear, people don't need to say anything. They just see you differently. Days passed. The street returned to normal. Almost, but not really. Because something had changed. Not in the houses, not in the walls, but in how people looked at each other. Naomi continued her work. Same table, same kids, same rhythm. No cameras, no announcements, just presence, consistency, reality. People still passed by. But now, they didn't just see a girl selling food, they saw something else, something they hadn't recognized before. Value, respect, not given, earned. Ashley stopped coming outside as often, when she did. It was different. No comments, no laughter, no attention-seeking, just distance. Because once a certain image breaks, it doesn't rebuild easily. One afternoon, Naomi was sitting on the porch, quiet, writing something in her notebook. The street was calm. Then, a sound, low at first, then clearer, engines, not one, multiple. Naomi looked up, slowly. A line of black SUVs turned onto the street, clean, polished, moving in perfect formation. Not fast, not slow, just precise. People stepped outside, doors opened, curtains moved because this didn't happen here. Not on this street. The cars stopped. Right in front of Naomi's house, the doors opened. One by one, men in suits stepped out. Then Lucas Hayes, then Eleanor Hayes. Naomi stood up. Not rushed, not confused, just present. Eleanor walked toward her, smiling slightly. Not formal, not distant. "We thought we should come to you," she said. Naomi looked at her, then at the cars, then back. "You didn't have to," she replied softly. Eleanor nodded. "We know." A pause. Then she added, "That's why we did." The neighbors watched, silent, because now the story had come full circle, not in a dramatic way, but in a real one. Naomi stood there, same place she had always stood, but the world had come to meet her, not because she chased it, but because she stayed true long enough for it to find her. And as the engines quieted and the moment settled into something unforgettable, one thing became clear. Respect is not given to those who demand it, but to those who live in a way that makes it undeniable. And that truth was only the beginning of something even greater.